Good afternoon. Welcome to the Army Maps IDIQ Opportunity Webinar held by GDI Consulting. My name is Cal, and I am your artificial intelligence host today. With me is Ab Vand, VP for Capture at GDI Consulting and a subject matter expert on these opportunities. Ab has over 30 years of experience in capture and proposal management. He is considered an expert in self-scoring as well as traditional proposal and capture efforts. Ab has managed over 1,000 successful capture and proposal efforts and is a regular contributor to Washington Technology and other online GovCon magazines. He has also held numerous training webinars for various APMP chapters and Apex, previously PTAC, offices throughout the U.S. Before starting, there are a few housekeeping notes I would like to mention. First, this webinar is being recorded and a link to the recording will be sent to you within 24 hours. Second, we will hold a Q&A session at the end. You can send your questions during the webinar by the chat system to the right of your window and Ab will address them at the end. Third, you can download this presentation by clicking on the link under File on the right-hand side panel on your window. We highly recommend you download the slide deck so that you can always refer back to it. So let's see what this webinar covers. We will first have a quick glimpse on GDI Consulting's capabilities. Then, a short discussion of the background of MAPS, which consists of two other contracts, the RS3 and ITS-3S programs. Then Ab will provide some general details of the MAPS opportunity, as well as its scope of work. Next will come a discussion of the proposal requirements and the scoring system. Then Ab will discuss the source selection process. We will also touch on the subject of partnering for this opportunity. Finally, Ab will provide his recommendations towards preparing a winning proposal. So with that, I will now hand over the control to Ab to start the webinar. Ab.
Thank you, Cal, and hello everyone, and thank you for participating in our MAPS webinar. We have a lot to cover. I will try to answer some of the questions sometime in the middle because I think we're going to have a lot of questions. But let's see how it develops. Let me very quickly say a little bit about GDI Consulting and what's new in 2025. We have a few surprises for you as far as our services are concerned. So for those of you who are new, our company has been in business for over 15 years, and we summed up our 2024 capabilities and how we have progressed. We actually had 289 wins in 2024 with $18.6 billion of contracts that we won for our clients. We have had an 81% win rate, that's an average of 3 years. And our self-scoring proposals has reached a 98% win rate. The majority or approximately all of the 97 clients that we helped with on Oasis Plus were actually successful in getting their contracts on Oasis Plus and similar ones. As far as MAPS is concerned, we had actually 4 wins on the RS3, 3 small business and 1 large, and 7 wins on the ITS-3S, 5 small businesses and 2 large businesses. So that's our background. Now, let's look at what we have for 2025. So we have added a few capabilities to our system. We have 4 divisions in our company. The Proposal Development Division, which provides eligibility and score assessment. We provide full task order or standalone proposal support. And we also provide IDIQ, BPA, and GWAC proposal support. And most of these nowadays are self-scoring. We provide review services and staff augmentation in our Proposal Development Division. In our Capture Management Division, we have strategic, or we call it dedicated capture management. And we also have short-term sourcing and qualification services in terms of capture. We have now a special vehicle support system for Oasis Plus, GSA Mass, and Seaport opportunities. to do capture, and then consequently proposal management for those task orders under those. And we have a new platform, Capture Edge. It's our capture management platform. If we have time, I will show you a little bit of it sometime in the middle of this webinar. It's a broad range capture management tool that can be used by all capture managers and proposal managers to enhance their contracting capabilities. Our support services division provides competitive intel, black hat exercises, price to win, and accounting preparations for DCAA and DCMA audits. We're helping a lot of companies right now preparing their accounting systems for the audit. And then finally, we have the training division, which provides both proposal development and capture management. So these are the services we have for 2025. Essentially, we are trying to provide a one-shop system for any company who is targeting federal opportunities. We will be able to provide any services that you would need. Okay, so as far as the MAPS IDIQ is concerned, we are providing free consultation, and I highly recommend that you take up this opportunity and use this and provide. I can come online once we set up a call, and I can answer any specific questions that you might have, and this is all free. We do eligibility and qualification assessment, and our two major services for the MAPS are full proposal development, going through all the volumes and preparing everything for you, and then review services. If you're doing it in-house, we can actually review your proposal. So these are the services we're providing for the MAPS IDIQ. Okay, so that was a short introduction about what GDI Consulting does and the services it provides. Let's now go into the MAPS background, a little bit of discussion about the two contracts that compromise MAPS right now. So MAPS, or the Marketplace for Acquisition of Professional Services, MAPS, is the result of merging two major U.S. Army programs, the RS-3 and ITES-3S. So for RS-3, it answers towards requirements for C5ISR, command control, communication, computers, cyber, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Its value is currently at $37 billion, and there are 261 incumbents or awardees on that RS-3. For ITES-3S, the scope includes a full range of IT services and solutions necessary for the Army, for its enterprise infrastructure and infrastructure goals worldwide. The value is $12.1 billion, and there are 135 incumbents on it, awardees right now. So these two together would be something around $49.1 billion, with approximately a little bit less than 400 awardees. These two have merged now into the MAPS program. So let's look at RS-3 first, how it's been performing and so on. The RS-3 stands for Responsive Strategic Sourcing for Services. RS-3, U.S. Army IDIQ, covers engineering, scientific, technical services. It had both the unrestricted and small business set aside, 5 years base and 5 years option starting March 2019. It seems that they don't want to go much into the 5-year options if they're going with MAPS. The task areas, C4ISR engineering services, research, development, test and evaluation services, logistics services, acquisition and strategic planning services, education and training services. So these are essentially the task areas under RS-3. Now, in terms of the spending, you can see that the spending has been growing. It's a healthy program. The dotted line is the trend line, so you can see it's increasing the government spending is increasing. and the actions reported, which can be more or less translated into task orders, not necessarily, but very similar, has been something around, say, between 1,200 to 1,600 during the past 3-4 years. So that's the spending system on RS3. As far as the agencies using it, it's essentially Army, the DoD, and the Air Force, very small numbers. These are in the millions. So the Army has spent about 7.5 billion already on this. In terms of socioeconomic and large and small, so you can see that a little bit less than $5 billion has gone to large businesses, and 2.78 or around $2.8 billion to small businesses. And you can see the other specific socioeconomic categories under small businesses, how they have fared on this. These are all millions of dollars. Okay, and this is a list of top 20 contractors in case you want to review it, so I won't go into the details of this. Let's look at the ITIS 3S now. So US Army IDIQ MAC, Information Technology Services, $12.1 billion. Again, this one both had an unrestricted and small business sections, 135 awardees, 52 unrestricted and 83 small business companies. 5 years base plus 4 1-year options. Okay, so this contract also is very healthy. You can see the increase in spending. So in 2024, the numbers do not cover 2025, obviously. So in 2024, $827 million was spent by the government. And you can see it's increasing as the dotted line shows. The trend line is up. Actions reported, if you take from 2021, something around 600, it's gone up a little bit over 1,000, then down to 800 in 2024. And these are actions reported, not necessarily task orders, because a task order might have multiple modifications. But it shows the trend line, how it's also increasing to some extent. Okay, in terms of spending per agencies, a little bit more widespread than RS3. So the Army around $2.5 billion, and then DoD, Air Force, GSA, Homeland Security, and so on. So a little bit more widespread than RS3. As far as large and small businesses, about $1.9 billion to large businesses and 1.3 approximately to small businesses. And you can see that small disadvantaged companies have the highest share of that, women-owned and then veteran-owned and so on. Okay, and this is a list of top 20 contractors if you want to see who is on that list. Okay, now let's start with the MAPS program. So let's look at some general information. US Army, IDIQ MAC, Engineering, Scientific, Technical, and IT Services. Estimated value is $50 billion. Again, this is both for unrestricted and small businesses. So both large and small businesses can participate. They have not mentioned the division. So we do not know how many awards will be towards large and how many towards small businesses. We do know that there are going to be 100 awards. They have 5 domains, which I will explain in a minute, and 20 awards per domain, making it 100 awards for the MAPS opportunity. It's a 10-year contract, 1 5-year base, and 1 5-year option. The full RFP, we already have 2 draft RFPs, and today I'm going to cover the second draft RFP, which has changed a lot of things. But the full RFP is expected to be released in 2025, although it might, in February 2025, although it might be delayed a little bit. Award date again estimated August 2025. Now, if there is a delay, we might expect a delay in the award as well. So as I mentioned, there are 5 domains under the MAPS contract. Technical services with the NAICS code 541330, 20 awards. Management and advisory services 541611, and this has been changed from the draft RFP number 1. It used to be 561110. Now they've changed it to 541611. It's important because the contracts that you're supposed to provide as past performance must abide to this if you're going for that NAICS code and for that domain. So 541611, 561110 no longer is applicable. So contracts with that NAICS code cannot be used anywhere. 20 awards for that. Then RDT&E, that's Research, Development, Testing, and Evaluation Services, 541715, 20 awards. Emerging IT Services, again, they've changed the name for this and a little bit of the subdomains under it. I will get to that. They called it High Level IT previously. So now it's called Emerging IT Services, 541512, 20 awards. And then the 5th one, Foundation IT Services. Again, this was used to be called Low Level IT in the first draft RFP. It's now called Foundation IT Services, 541519, 20 awards. So that's the scope, more or less. And this is essentially people in these areas that you provide to the government under each of these NAICS codes. Okay, let me also discuss the proposal structure here for MAPS. So the proposal has actually 6 different areas, 3 volumes though. The cover letter, 1 page, gate criteria, that's the minimum requirements. And that way you can gauge yourself whether you have the minimum requirements, and I'm going to go into details of that in a minute. Then you have volume 1, system rates and certifications, volume 2, past performance, and volume 3, technical. Volume 1 is no page limits because you essentially provide documents as substantiation for your certificates and rates and that sort of thing. Volume 2, past performance, 1 page per qualifying project, or QP as they say. So 1 page per QP, a maximum of 3 pages, because you're allowed maximum 3 QPs, 3 qualifying projects. And then volume 3, technical, just 6 pages. So you might think this is a 10 pager, 12 pager overall with the table of content and that sort of thing. So it's a very small proposal, but don't be misled by that. This is a very complex proposal that you have to prepare, and I'll get to that specifically towards volume 2. It's very important to prepare yourself for that. And then if you're a large business, they've added this again in the second draft RFP, small business subcontracting plan. So if you're a small business, you don't need that, but if you're a large business, you need that to be provided with your submission. Okay, let's go into the main concern of most companies, the minimum requirements or the gate criteria. In the first webinar I held on MAPS, there were very stringent minimum requirements, and most companies could not in any way, provide those minimum requirements. So they they had a bad time thinking that they cannot go after this. Fortunately, the Army has actually relaxed most of these minimum requirements, and we'll see in a minute in the table that I will show you now that it is much easier now. So I have divided this into the systems, certificates, and clearances that were needed or are needed, Then, sorry, back, previous. Original large business, the new large business requirements. Original small business, new small business requirements. When I say original, I meant the draft RFP number 1. New means draft RFP number 2. Obviously, once the full RFP drops, all of this changes again. But we are comparing, for example, for large businesses, you can see that security facility clearance is a requirement and remains to be the case. So whether you're large or small, you need to have a secret facility clearance. ISO 9001:2015 was a requirement, remains to be a requirement. There's a new requirement now, CMMI level 2 or higher for IT. CMMI level 2 or higher is a requirement for both small business and large business. There is a catch. If you don't have it, I will explain in a minute. You can actually, pass that. That's fine. And then for number 4 all the way to number 10, so CMMC level 1, ISO 27001, 3 types of NIST, CNSS instructions, and NIST SP 800. All of these have been removed. So the new, whether you're a large business or a small business, you don't need any of these. For large businesses, an approved accounting system is a requirement. For small businesses, it's not. And this hasn't changed. It used to be that. Now, they have changed something about the CPARs. Previously, in the first draft RFP, you needed a CPAR, just a CPAR. You were supposed to submit your CPARs, or they checked your CPARs. Now, however, they have been more specific as to what they are going to look in your CPARs. So they're going to look at your CPARs for these 5 different domains, and 60% of them must be over marginal for large businesses and for small businesses. So that's 40% for small business. Sorry, that's a mistake. So for small businesses, 40% must be over marginal. So say satisfactory, very good, or exceptional. 40% for small business, and 60% for those under large business submissions must be either satisfactory, very good, or exceptional. Now, the catch is this. This does not mean the rating, the overall rating of the CPAR. It means each and every rating within a CPAR. Usually a CPAR has 4, 5, sometimes 6 different ratings, whether how well you performed in terms of, for example, subcontract management, how well you performed with regards to your own management, your timing, timelines, and so on and so forth. All of those they're going to check. And for large businesses, 60% must be over marginal. For small businesses, 40% over marginal. So this is another requirement, but I think most companies can actually overcome this. This is not a major hurdle. What is probably right now stopping some companies to actually go for it is obviously secret facility clearance. You need that. There's nothing to do about that if you don't have it, and ISO 9001. However, for CMMI level 2, as I mentioned, similar to SOUP 6, if you're going after that, they say that either you present your certification for it, or you prove that you are actually in the process of getting it. So if a company is actually reviewing your application, that's acceptable as well. So you have time from now till the full RFP drops and the due date for it to actually talk to one of these certificate companies and start your process, your review process. And probably we have to, in SOUP 6, it's like this. You're supposed to provide your POC for that company. They're going to call them. And if they say, yes, this company is actually in the process, that's acceptable. Probably something like that for this MAPS opportunity too. So as I said, for those who don't have a CMMI level 2 or higher, you can start the process now. And if you go under review, then that's acceptable too. But for ISO 9001 and secret facility clearance, no, you have to have it. And if you're a large business, you have to have an approved accounting system. But that's not needed for small businesses. So those were the minimum requirements that have been relaxed. Let me stop here a little bit, give you a break and answer some of the questions, and then we can start again. Okay, so let's start with Bob's question. Why isn't there a volume about price? Okay, Bob, they have not included it, but I'm not sure about the final RFP because considering the number of protests and last year's rulings in that the IDIQs must have some sort of pricing involved, I will not be surprised if they actually include some sort of a clean structure for pricing. So probably some LCATs or something like that that you have to price. Question from Eva. You said that if our CMMI is in process, they will accept it. What about ISO 9001 certifications? No, as I said, so far it seems that you have to have it. You need to provide the actual certification. Now, whether they're going to change this later or not with the full RFP and make it like the CMMI, that's something to wait for. Perhaps if you don't have it, you can write to the Army POC on this and ask them for this. Ask them that they actually change the requirement for ISO 9001 into something that you're in process. That be acceptable as well. Question from Jane. Are we supposed to submit our proposal in phases? For example, first the gate criteria and then if accepted the rest, or all in one go? It's all in one go, so no phasing. You submit everything together. Question from Tom. How long will we have to prepare our proposal, assuming that the final RFP doesn't have major flaws? I think that perhaps we will have around the usual 30 days, because as I mentioned, this is about 10 to 12 pages. So as far as preparations, I don't think they will give us more than 30 days. Question from Param. There are several hundred companies awarded on an RS3 and ITES 3S, as you mentioned. Why have they limited it to just 100 awards here? Okay, so I hear this question a lot. In the industry day, they said that it's to promote better competition, this is in quotes, and also make task order awards more efficient to save time and money. That's what they said. I know that for RS3 awardees, I think around 61% didn't get any awards on the task orders. On the ITES 3S, 30% didn't get any task orders. So it seems that the government, the Army, they want to streamline the process so that only those capable of true competition are actually awarded. That's why they've limited it to that 100. So a lot of questions about scoring. I will get to that in the next section, so I will skip these questions. Let's start then. Okay, so let's go into the proposal scoring system and see how it's working. So there are three major sections to the proposal scoring. The table at the top, system rates and certifications, past performance, and technical. Now, again, what I have put in here is the old, meaning when I say old again, meaning RFP, draft RFP number 1, and the new, meaning draft RFP number 2. So, for example, system rates and certification used to be 4 for large businesses, is now for large businesses 2. For small businesses, it used to be 4, now it's only 2. So 2 points have been dropped here. Now, past performance has changed considerably, and I'll go into details later, but as far as the scoring is concerned, used to be 26 for both small and large businesses. It's now 36, so 10 more points to it. And technical used to be 9. It's now increased to 15. And we'll see these in detail. So the total score has changed for large businesses from 39 to 55. This is the maximum score, obviously. And for small businesses from 39 to 53. So we have either 53 or 55 now for the total score. And the graph below this shows how they compare together. So you can see that relevance and past performance. Under past performance, the red ones are all past performance related. The blue ones are systems, rates, certifications, and the green ones are technical. So you can see that in past performance, relevance and performance quality, these two get 15 points each, are the most important, you could think of it, points that you should go for. Obviously, you shouldn't miss even 1 point due to the competition, but relevance and performance quality are more important than everything else. And I will go into detail of that again later on in the webinar. So let's move to volume 1. We discussed what each volume was. If you remember the general structure of the proposal. Now I want to go into details and then explain how the scoring works for these volumes. So volume 1, systems and rates, it is only for large businesses. So if you're a small business, you don't get any points here. This is only for large businesses. There are 4 areas: approved rates, for example, forward pricing, billing, that sort of thing. Purchasing system, estimating system, and property management system. If you have any 2 of these, you get 1 point. So any 2 of these, you get 1 point. If you have 1 more, you get 1 extra point. So to translate it in another way, if you have 3 or 4 of these, you get 2 points. If you have 2 of these, you get 1 point. If you have less than 2, you don't get any points. So 3 or 4 of these, all of them, or 3 of them, you get 2 points. If you have only 2 of these, you get 1 point, and less than 2, you don't get any points. Certifications, and this is both for small and large businesses. CMMC level 2 or higher, 1 point. ISO 27001, 1 point. So overall, you get 2 points there. That's why the total is 2 points for small businesses and 4 points for large businesses. This is for volume 1, systems, rates, and certifications. Essentially, you're supposed to provide the certifications, the letters, or proof that you actually have these. Let's go to volume 2, which is more complex. So volume 2 has 4 areas: relevance, 15 points, NAICS alignment, 3 points, recency, 3 points, performance quality, 15 points. Now, all of this is based on 3 contracts, 3 what they call qualifying projects, QPs. So you're supposed to submit 3 contracts, and you cannot change them for each of these 4. So you pick 3 contracts that they're going to review for relevance, for NAICS alignment, for recency, and for performance quality. Let's go into the details of this. For relevance, there's a list of sub areas under each domain. If you get 100%, and they're called technical capabilities. Those sub areas under each domain are called technical capabilities. If you have all of them in the domain you're going for, you get 5 points. If you get 75 to 99% of those technical capabilities, and I'll show you why these percentages are like this, you get 3 points. If you get 50 to 74%, 2 points, 25 to 49%, 1 point. Below 25%, you don't get any points. So the maximum for each QP is 5 points. Since there are 3 QPs, 3 times 5, 15 points max for relevance. I will go in the next slides and explain, I will go into details and explain what these technical capabilities are and how that percentage system works. But just now understand that each contract can get a maximum of 5 points, 3 contracts, 3 QPs, you get 15 points. NAICS alignment. For each QP, each one of those 3, if the NAICS aligns with the proposed domain, we earn 1 additional point. So if you're going for example, 541330, or say one of the IT ones, 541512, if the 3 QPs that you're presenting have that same NAICS code, you get 1 extra point per QP, because you will see with the requirements, you are allowed to present QPs that do not necessarily have the same NAICS code as the domain you're going for. So maybe you're going for the domain of IT, 541512, but your contract NAICS code is 541330. That's acceptable. But you don't get a point here. You get a point here, 1 point per QP, if and only if the NAICS code of the contract aligns with the NAICS code of the domain you're going after. Recency. For each QP, if the POP end date is within the past 2 years, we earn 1 additional point. So if the completion date is within the past 2 years, you get 1 point. Since 3 QPs, you get 3 points max here. And then performance quality. This has changed considerably. So listen carefully. If you've gone through the first draft, this has changed. So for each QP, if its performance rating is satisfactory for all ratings in that QP, you get 1 point. If the performance rating in the CPAR or the past performance questionnaire PPQ is very good for all ratings, meaning 5 or 6 sub ratings that is in a CPAR, you get 3 points. And if it's exceptional for all of them, you get 5 points. Note, when I say all, means that, for example, you have a CPAR that has everything exceptional, but one of them is satisfactory. Then you get only 1 point. It's considered a satisfactory type CPAR. So all of them must be exceptional to get the 5 points. And since we have 3 QPs, 3 times 5 is 15 points. This is a major change because previously it was not that. So essentially, the bulk of the points was on relevance. Past performance was much easier. You were supposed to have, QPs that had the ratings above satisfactory, and that's it. So this has changed. Now, essentially, relevance and past performance are equal in terms of importance. That's why you have to juggle your contracts to see which one will get you higher score. You might have a contract that has everything exceptional, so you get 5 points there, but it's very specific to one of the technical capabilities, doesn't cover the rest of the technical capabilities within that domain, so you don't get any points under QP. So it's really important to consider all the possible ways that your contracts can be managed or checked, and see which one will give you actually the higher score out of all the contracts that you have. This is a major problem, especially for larger companies who have a lot of contracts. So you have to sit down and do a lot of document management and math to actually get those points right. Okay, moving forward, let's look at some of the past performance requirements and conditions. So up to 3 contracts, as I mentioned, or QPs. Contracts can be single contracts or task orders. Single, I mean standalone contracts or task orders under an IDIQ or BPA or an FSS contract. All of those is acceptable if it's a federal contract. But you can also have contracts that are commercial or contracts that you were a subcontractor to a prime. All of that is acceptable. As far as the value is concerned, though, the value for those QPs, it has to have a value of $2 million or larger overall. This is the overall value of the contract. So the three QPs that you bring to the table, each must have a value larger than $2 million. Recency, completed within the past 4 years and with 1 year of performance. Note, these are the minimum requirements for the QPs. Previously, in the previous slide, I said that you got 1 point, for example, more if the end date is within the past 2 years. You get an extra point. But what we are covering right now here are the minimum requirements for a QP. So if a QP is less than $2 million, they're not going to look at it at all. You lose all the points for it. If the QP was completed more than 4 years ago, they're not going to look at it and you lose all points for it. So that's the recency. Completed within the past 4 years with 1 year of performance. Relevance, NAICS of the contract must be the NAICS for one of the 5 domains, not specifically your own domain. You get 1 extra point there, as I mentioned previously, but you can use contracts that are within the any of the 5 domains. And do note that management advisory NAICS code has changed. So if you're going to have that sort of a NAICS code, that's the 541611 that you need to have. CPAR. So if a CPAR does not exist for a QP, then you need to fill out the attachment to PPQ, send it to the contracting officer, respected contracting officer for that contract, for them to actually sign it and get back to you. They haven't exactly said whether how the process will be, but essentially this is it. You need a PPQ if you do not have a CPAR for the QP, for the qualifying project that you are presenting. So these are the minimum requirements for the contracts that you have. For extra points, as I mentioned, with regards to recency or the NAICS code, those were covered, but this is the minimum requirement. Okay, so let's now look at what I promised to show you, those TCs or technical capabilities under each domain. And we said you're supposed, if you had 100%, you would get 5 points. If you had 75% to 99%, you would get 3 points, and so on and so forth. So these are under the technical services domain, 541330. There are 6 of them: engineering services, logistics services, manufacturing readiness, technology insertion, integration, interoperability. And each of these count as 16.67%. So if the QP that you bring to the table covers, say, engineering services and logistics services, then you have something around 33%. The add up to 16.67%. If you have 3 of them, 3 times that, and so on. So this is how you calculate what percentage you are covering. And this changes obviously for each domain. So this domain has 6 TCs, 6 technical capabilities. So each of them have a weight of 6.67. Now, when we go to the other domains, it changes. So in the management and advisory services domain, 541611, there's 7 TCs, 7 technical capabilities. So the weighing is a little bit less, 14.29% for each of these. So the QP, the qualifying project that you bring to the table, the more of these TCs it has, the more percentage it will get. So here we have acquisition strategic planning, financial services, training services, educational services, program management, quality assurance, risk management. These are all under the management advisory services domain. Going to RDT&E services, 541715, we have basic research, applied research, experimental development research, modeling and simulation, prototyping, fabrication support, and exploratory research. All of these are 16.67%. Then we go to the IT ones, the number 4, emerging IT services domain, 541512. This has 11 different technical capability areas, TCs. So the percentage weight is less, 9.09% each of these weigh. So you have to add them up per QP that you have. So 11 areas here: intelligence automation, infrastructure service platform, infrastructure cloud services, component framework, big data analytics, data services, quantum computing, IT RDT&E, business process reengineering, network systems operations and maintenance enterprise, integration and consolidation information technology services, cybersecurity, and telecommunications system operations and maintenance. So these are the different TCs under emerging IT services. And lastly, number 5, foundational IT services domain, 541519, help desk support, independent verification and validation, IT education and training, IT support chain management, IT supply chain management, IT management services, and information technology services. So all of these, 16.67%. Let's look at an example so you understand what I mean. So let's take an example of, for example, the last one, this domain number 5, foundation IT services. And let's take our QP number 1, and the split of the percentages is written. So help desk support 16.67, IVNV 16.67, and so on and so forth. Now this QP1 does cover help desk, does cover IT education and training, does cover IT management services, and does cover information technology services. So for each of those that it covers, the scope of work covers those, it gets 16.67%. The total comes to 66.68%. Now, if we go back to that percentage system that I explained earlier, going back, we have, if we had 100%, we get 5 points. If we had 75 to 99%, we get 3 points. 50 to 74, 2 points. 25 to 49, 1 point. So we look at this 66.68%, which is the sum of these 4, and we see it lies here within 50 to 74%. So we get 2 points for this QP. This is how you calculate your point. If you had 3 of these, you would get probably 3 points. You would get over 75%, and that way you would get 3 points. And then you had to have all 6 of them to get the 5 points. This is how the calculation for the scoring works for each QP as far as the technical capability section is concerned. Okay, moving forward. So let's look at volume 3, technical. So the technical volume now has 15 points, 5 points for each of these 3 different areas: recruitment, retention, and risk management. Here you essentially, it's all writing. So good proposal management, and of course the content is important too. Not only the writing skills, but you know, the exact answering the exact questions that the government has posed. So for under recruitment, they want to see how qualified candidates will be recruited, how key positions will be recruited and staffed, identifying the timeline needed to recruit and staff positions not already filled, identify how many recruiter positions are currently staffed, identify if you have a human resource department, HR department, provide an organizational structure of your HR department. So if they consider this outstanding, you get 5 points. If they consider it good, 3 points, acceptable, 2 points, marginal, 1 point. Note that you only have 2 pages, just 2 pages to cover. So writing 2 pages towards this is much more difficult than writing 10 pages. I think all proposal managers know that. If they tell you write 20 pages on this, is much easier than writing it in 2 pages. because you have to be really concise and to the point and cover everything properly. Retention. How do you support internal and professional development? Identify current mentorship programs. How do you retain employees and what are the processes? So again, outstanding 5 points, good 3 points, acceptable 2 points, marginal 1 point. 2 pages only. Risk management. Identify any proactive risk management strategies such as risk identification, risk assessment, risk avoidance, risk monitoring, and risk response planning. And an overview of your current OCI plan. Now, again, outstanding 5 points, good 3 points, acceptable 2 points, marginal 1 point. So the most important point that I did mention is that since you only have to write, are allowed to write 2 pages for each, you really have to be concise, to the point, and at the same time covering everything possible. Okay. Now, this is a general, an overall view of the scoring system and what is required. So I have covered everything previously, but I thought that perhaps putting it all together will give you a better idea of where we stand. So systems, rates, and certifications, 2 points for systems rates, 2 points for certifications. And remember, large businesses only for systems and rates. And how you're scored, the points there under notes. Relevance, next alignment, recency, and past performance quality have been explained with regards to the percentages, the points, what is needed for each of them. And the same thing for recruitment, retention, and risk management, 5 points each, and I've mentioned them. So overall, 55 points, that's the maximum, obviously, for large businesses, and 53 points for small businesses. Okay, so let's discuss source selection process, and I'm slow and behind schedule as usual. Quickly, so the first step they're going to check is the GATE criteria. They want to make sure that you have it. If you don't, they will not move you to the second step, which is scoring and ranking. So GATE criteria, as it says, GATE, is the most important part. You want to make sure that you do have the ISO 9001 and you do have the secret facility clearance. And if you're a large business, you have the accounting system, approved accounting system. And for both small and large, the NAICS codes are properly there. If that's the case, then your proposal is moved to step 2, which is scoring and ranking. They will also check for a small business subcontracting plan in step 1, and then in step 2 they start ranking based on the scoring system. So they check the proof for your scoring. If that's the case, they rank, and then up from each domain they pick the top 20 in the third step. So after they have ranked everything, after making sure that the scoring is correct and you have provided the proper proof and your contracts are correct, they rank you, and then they pick the top 20. Now, how they're going to decide between small businesses and large businesses, that's not known yet. But at the end of the day, 20 companies per domain for a total of 100 awards. Okay. Partnering, because that's a question that pops up a lot. So they are now a little bit more specific in the second draft. It specifically mentions that companies cannot use a QP from their teaming partner. So you cannot bring in a subcontractor or so and use a QP from them. That's not allowed, whether it's a small business or large business, whether you're small or large. That's not allowed. So all the QPs must come from you. If you don't have 3 QPs, only have 2 QPs at the end of the day, I recommend don't go for it, because there's a stiff competition, or companies have those 3 QPs. So if you have less than 3 QPs with the minimum requirements, do not go for this. You have to have 3 QPs, and all of them must come from you. Now, they have not mentioned anything about JVs, whether JVs can participate or not. This will be probably cleared in the final RFP. I think the FAR requirements do allow JVs, so at the end of the day, JVs can participate. We'll have to see how they regulate that. Now, the way sections L and M are set up, it is doubtful that partnering can be advantageous in getting an award. So since you can't get any QPs and most of the points come from QPs, systems and certs must be in your name. So partnering, as far as subcontracting and CTAs of that sort, does not seem to be plausible for an award. Perhaps a JV, and we'll have to see how a JV works. I'm sure that they will allow JVs. We'll just have to see if they change any of the requirements for JVs or they stand as is. So although subcontracting on future task orders is a possibility, but subcontracting for the purpose of getting an award, there's no, I don't see any reasoning to that. Okay, and then my recommendations. So you need to do a go, no-go and gap analysis. So do a full go, no-go gap analysis at the beginning with emphasis on the gate criteria. If you don't have them, do not pursue this opportunity, even one of them. You can't say, hey, I have secret facility clearance, but I don't have ISO 9001. Or I'm a large business, I do have both of those, but I don't have an approved accounting system. You will just, your proposal will be put aside. So all the time and effort that you've put on it will be wasted. Don't go for it. So that's the first thing you have to check. A gap analysis, whether you can pass that gate criteria. But as I mentioned, for CMMI level 2, if you can provide proof that it's in process of being approved, you can actually pass that one, CMMI level 2, but not for ISO 9001. Some general notes: you should aim to get the full 53 for small business or 55 for large business points, considering the tight competition. Even every 1 point counts. So that's really important. You should assume that your competitors mostly have the required systems, rates, and certifications, and will get 2 points or 4 points, depending on whether they're small or large, there. And will also get the 15 points for technical volume. I mean, the recruitment, retention, and risk assessment, as it's essentially based on good writing skill. So you need to, get the maximum score in the past performance volume, which has 36 points. That's where you should actually try to outshine the others. Due to the changes and the new 10 additional points based on past performance ratings, selecting the best 3 contracts is really critical. For example, a contract might cover multiple technical areas, but has one satisfactory rating in all of, and everything else is excellent. You might not want to use that because, you lose a lot of points there. So you should score each contract separately. This is the key thing. This is the most important point in your strategy. Score each of your contracts separately. Then decide which 3 will give you the highest score. If I tell you what is the most important way of proceeding under maps, assuming that you've done your gap analysis, this is how you to do it. Sit down, you have 200 contracts, fine. Sit down and score each of those 200 contracts and then pick the best 3. Because sometimes you don't see it, but sometimes a contract that might cover a lot of, as I mentioned, a lot of those TCs, you will get a lot of points due to some unsatisfactory or very good points or something like that in the CPAR. So you really need to do this separately for each contract. So although there are only 10-12 pages to the proposal, there's a lot of work to do, especially for large businesses who have a lot of contracts and for small businesses who have many contracts. So start now. Start yesterday. A lot of work to be done. Okay, and we are nearly finished in time. So Again, the services we provide, full proposal development for you and review services, either we can provide, and do use that free consultation opportunity. Coordinate with us. I can jump on a call and discuss any questions that you have, answer as much as I can. Okay, let's very quickly answer a few more questions. And this is my contact info, and my colleagues' contact info, so you can communicate with us for setting up a time if you want our services, or if you want to provide us to provide a free consultation. So before I answer some questions, let me also say that we have a group on LinkedIn on Maps that shows the latest developments. I recommend that you actually join it if you're active on LinkedIn to stay up to date on that. So Cal will post the link on the chat system in a minute. Okay, question from Sandra. Please repeat what you said about QPs and TCs. What is the difference? Okay, so for each domain submission, you need to provide 3 contracts. These are called the QPs, or qualifying projects. Now, under each domain scope of work, there are a number of areas which are called technical capabilities, or TCs. So QPs are the contracts you provide. TCs are the technical capabilities or areas under the scope of work under each domain. Depending on how many of these TCs are covered in each contract, you get a number of points, as I mentioned in those percentages earlier on. Question from Steven. Can you explain again how the scoring on the CPARs works? Right, so either you have a CPAR for your QP or you don't, in which case you need to get a PPQ filled and signed by the corresponding contracting officer or core. That's attachment 2. Now, the way they're going to look at the CPAR rating is that they're not going to look at the overall rating or the average, which is customary in other RFPs like Oasis Plus or others. Here, they're going to look at the each and every rating within a CPAR, which is usually 4 up to 6 or 7 of them. First of all, none of them must be below satisfactory. If one of them is below satisfactory, you're done. You can't use that QP. If even one of them is satisfactory, you get only 1 point. It is considered a satisfactory QP. If one of them has a very good and the rest of them are exceptional, it's considered very good. All of them must be exceptional for you to get the 5 points for it. I hope that quickly answers you. Brenda's question. Okay, why are they going into the details of the rating within a CPAR? This doesn't seem fair. Well, I had not seen this system before either, to be honest. Overall, the system is more advantageous to small businesses, I think. This is per my experience, because for large businesses, the lowest ranking usually in CPARs is the subcontract and management part, because that's not the part that that company can control completely themselves. It's another company and how well they manage them. So usually my experience shows that you get a lower rating compared to the other ratings that are specific to your own company when you're a large business. This will pull down the large businesses' score. Small businesses don't have this dependency on subs, so they have an advantage in this regard. But why they've done it, to be honest, I don't know. Question from Jack. How can they ask for CMMC level 2 accreditation when there are no approved C3PAO companies? Correct, Jack. It's a strange request. So for everyone's information, since Jack knows it already, CMMC level 2 can only be issued by a company that is approved by the government, and their shortened name is C3PAOs. Now, while there are currently no officially accredited C3PAOs performing certification at level 2, as far as I know, at least, the situation is evolving. So I know that the DoD is working with CMMC accreditation body. It's called CMMC-AB, to, like my name, to establish and accredit organizations to conduct these assessments. So they're doing it. Maybe maybe they're going to do it this month or next month. I don't know, but so far it's in the requirements. You get a point for it, actually. We'll see if the Army will drop that or they will keep it. Question from Madeline. Explain again the limitation and scoring on the NAICS. Okay, so on the NAICS, on the contracts, you have you use as a QP, qualifying project. The NAICS must be one of the 5 domains. So any of the 541330, 541611, 541715, and the 2 IT ones, 541512 and 541519. Your the NAICS of your QP can be any of these. Doesn't matter which domain you're going after. Can be any of these. Of course, you get and this is the minimum, but you get 1 extra point per QP if that NAICS code of that QP aligns with the domain you're going for. Say, for example, you're going for the domain IT 541512. You can submit a QP that has 541611, management and advisory. That's acceptable. But you get an extra point if the NAICS code for your QP is 541512. So while it's a minimum requirement that the NAICS code is one of those 5, you get 1 extra point if it aligns with the exact domain you're going after. I hope I've answered your question, Madeline. So we are out of time. I've gone past 5 minutes. I'm seeing a lot of remaining questions. For these, I will reach out to everyone whose questions I have not responded to. I apologize for that. So expect my response to those questions by email. Thank you again for participating in our proposal, in our webinar to discuss the proposal requirements. And we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars. For your information, we'll be holding a final webinar on SOUP 6 at the end of this month. We'll also have multiple webinars in February, for which we'll be sending you the schedule and timing later on. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day.